Hey, I'm Siobhan, community cultivator and founder of Be Free Project. The Be Free Project podcast was created for community, sisterhood, and personal growth. Each week, you'll be inspired and motivated to do the work to show up for yourself so you too can feel fulfilled and be free. Now grab a pen and a notebook and let's get into the show. Hey, welcome back to another episode. Today I am loving soup. So whenever it's the fall and winter season, I like to make all different kinds of soups. And I have a few saved in my Pinterest board, like my go-to, which you know what I just learned about Pinterest, and I'm sure you probably already know this. I recently learned that you could create sections within a Pinterest board. So I have a recipe board and then I broke it up into sections for seafood and soup, chicken, quick meals, vegan. And when I tell you I am so over the moon about it, it just makes my Pinterest board, for that particular board anyway, really easy to use. But anywho, I love soup. So most recently I made a tortellini soup. I've made a wild rice soup. My friend just shared a recipe with me that I cannot wait to try. But that is what I'm loving, y'all. I am loving soup, especially because it makes me feel cozy, it's comforting, it's warm. It lasts for a couple of days, so it always brings me so much joy. Okay, on to today's episode. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm already feeling emotional, and I've been avoiding recording this episode probably for the last couple of hours. And I'm like, I had to check in, like, why are you avoiding this? Why are you avoiding this? Because I can already feel it's going to be emotional for me. So this particular episode is called My Awakening Part 2, My 2020 Glow Up. And you may have heard me share many times this year that this has been the most challenging year of my life. I have grown in ways that I did not think I was capable of. And I've felt stretched beyond belief. And so I'm going to take you through this year, month by month. And I just ask that you send love and light my way. Because even though this year has been a challenge, it's also been a beautiful season for me, that I've grown so much this year that for another person, it probably would have taken 5 to 10 years possibly to get to this point. And because of the growth that I've had this year, it affirms and validates for me that there is a calling on my life, that I've been chosen for something greater, and that the pace that my life is moving, I have to grow through certain things quicker because of the impact that I'm here to make. And so I'm going to take you through 2020 from January up until now. And you know what? Let's just get into it. So I kicked off the year in January. I attended the Rise conference that's hosted by Rachel Hollis. And I was invited to the conference, and it was my first ever experience like this before. I traveled to Florida by myself. I rented a car for the first time by myself. I had a cute little Airbnb that was so beautiful, about 20 minutes from the arena where everything was happening. And this experience was twofold, because I was traveling alone and I was doing some things that I had never done by myself before. But then I was also attending this conference as a guest, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to experience, but I don't know. I don't know what I was going to experience, but I was open-minded, we'll say that. And so it was a 3-day conference. And if you want to hear the details of all of it, go back to the episode. I did a 2-part series called Rise to Reiki. where I talked about the conference, but you can go back and check it out. So that kicked off my year. And when I got home from the conference, I was glowing. I was so lit up. I was on fire. And the thing that lit me up the most is that I saw my dreams in front of me. Like I saw the massive community that I was building. I saw me being on the stage. I saw my dreams become more real for me. And it lit a fire in me that was dim for a while. So that was my January for the most part. In March was my 40th birthday, and for the first time ever, I had planned a birthday brunch. And I was so excited because I had invited all my friends to come and everyone was looking forward to it. I had never planned a birthday party or birthday brunch or anything like that for myself. So this was a big to-do. And I had to cancel my birthday brunch because of COVID. And I remember initially I was like, wow, I guess we can. Initially I was like, oh, this is going to pass. I'm still going to be able to have it. But by my birthday, which is on March 21st, it was obvious that it couldn't happen. And I had to cancel it. And that was really sad for me because it was definitely something that I was looking forward to. Also in March, I went to the Rise conference again, but this time I went in Toronto, Canada. And from the first time that I experienced Rise, this experience was very, very different. It's almost like this one was more emotional for me. And again, go back and listen to the 2-part series I did from Rise to Reiki. But what I did realize is that a part of me had been stuck in my past, and it was time to walk into my future self. And when I got back from this conference, because of what I experienced and it being very emotional for me, I had told my daughter, I said, the next time that I see my mother, I'm going to hug her and tell her I love her. And I'm telling you that because I want you to hold me accountable. And the reason that I felt so strong in that is because I felt so much compassion for the women that I saw at the conference that were dealing with a lot of pain, and that I knew that a part of me had to go back and heal some stuff between the relationship with my mother and I. Also in March, because of quarantine and I needed something to do other than being in a house, I started walking every single day. Just going for a walk, just to get outside, to get some fresh air, because there was nothing else that I felt like we were able to do. And so that is what I started doing, walking every day. One other thing that happened in March is that I became friends with another group of friends, and we met at a conference and we started building a friendship that has been such a beautiful experience that I'll talk about a little bit later. But that was very new to me because the friends that I've always had friends for years and years ago, whether we went to high school together, we met at church, things like that. But these particular relationships, these new friends, we met on the internet, and we have become such great friends as a result of the connections that we've made with one another. So that was March. So right at the top of quarantine, COVID, my birthday. And then let me also point out, with my birthday this year, I knew that this would be my glow up season, right? I knew that that's what I was walking into. And I was in a very reflective mode. And so I was open to whatever year 40 was going to bring to me. And then, this is one thing great that happened for my birthday. That was the night that D Nice did, I think, the first big live DJ session. It was on my birthday, and I remember my best friend and I, we were on a FaceTime, like chatting with each other, listening to the music because he was getting it in. And I just felt like that was my own personal birthday party. I had wine, and we just had such a good time. And so that was definitely a great experience. On to April, and this is when things begin to shift in a major way for me. In April, I learned that a mother-like figure was in hospice. And I hadn't seen her in a very long time. I hadn't seen her in a long time. And so I learned about her being in hospice. And then 3 weeks later, I learned that she had passed away. And this shifted everything for me because I haven't had a lot of close people pass away. And I considered her a mother figure. She's known me since I was a teenager. And this was difficult because I had learned about her illness, and then there was no time with COVID and everything. There was no time or no opportunity to see her. And so I didn't see her until her wake. And the same day that I went to her wake, I was also having my first virtual Be Free meetup. And so hours before that event was to go on, I had to say goodbye to someone that I cared and loved. And that was hard for me because I didn't see that coming. And I had never lost a mother-like figure before, so that kind of hit me in a way that I wasn't ready for. Then May comes, and in May, I made another hard choice, and I brought closure to a friendship that was no longer serving me. And it was a difficult choice, but it was the right choice. And I say it was the right choice because I've grown so much and I am constantly changing. And what I realize is that I'm just growing in a different direction. And I'm learning. And it's a hard lesson to learn when you have to let go of relationships and people that you think you need so that you can attract more of what you actually need. And so that was difficult for me to do, but it was the right decision. Another thing that happened in May was that there's this inner part of me that I had suppressed for a very long time because of my good girl persona that I talked about on another episode. And that part of me was awakened in May. And I even started to feel more connected with her. And this is when I started reading the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And if you've been following me on Instagram, I've talked about this book a lot. We're actually reading it as part of our book club inside the Be Free Inner Circle, and we'll be having our book chat about it as well. And we're going to have ongoing discussions about it because it's that good. But this book changed my whole entire life. I remember one morning I was going for a walk and I was looking for a podcast to listen to. And I started listening to Brene Brown's podcast episode, and she was interviewing Glennon Doyle. And I heard her talk about the book. And by the time the episode was over, I was back home about 8 something in the morning. And I was at Target about 8:30 buying the book so that I could start reading it that morning. And there's more that goes along with that as it relates to the book, and I'll talk about it later because I have already manifested that I am going to interview Glennon Doyle on this podcast. Trust and believe it's going to happen one day. But anywho, I started reading Untamed, and I felt so open. I felt seen. I felt like I was just breaking. And reading the book, there were moments when I was in tears because it was just speaking so loudly to me. Also in May, of course, it was Mother's Day. And I've shared on here many times that Mother's Day is not my favorite holiday, even though I'm a mother of 2, because of the relationship that I have with my mother. But this year, for the first time ever, I had so much ease. I felt free. I felt lively, so much so that I even hosted a live event for women who were suffering, or, Mother's Day wasn't a good day for them and they just wanted a space to just be. And I now know when I created the Motherless Child Guidebook, not only did I create the guidebook for other women to heal, but I healed myself. And if you want to know more about the Motherless Child Guidebook, you can check the show notes in my website for more information about that. But with that, this Mother's Day feeling so easeful and I was just in such good spirits, that was amazing for me. But then it also brought up some friction with a family member because I decided to speak my truth and speak my heart. And sometimes when you start speaking up for yourself, because people are so used to how you used to be and how they've always known you, they're not ready for it. And so that was hard for me. And then the other thing is, for the first time ever that I can ever remember, my mother gave me a Mother's Day card. And she signed it and everything. And that just, it did something to me. And my mother had left the Mother's Day card at my grandmother's house, so that's where I got it from. So I hadn't seen her. And when I read the card, it warmed all the pieces of my heart because she thought of me. And that was really meaningful. Now we're into June. And this is when I started to feel like I was suffocating and that I was drowning. And the only way that I was able to catch my breath is when I went outside for a walk. And the reason that I started feeling this way, because as I was reading the book Untamed, so much stuff was coming up. And I started questioning everything about my life. And I'm like, I don't know if I want any of this. I don't know if any of this feels good to me. And so I met with a new therapist because what I expressed to her, I said, now that I'm 40, I feel like something is shifting and I can't quite put my finger on it. And it was an okay session, but I was still looking for more at the end of it. And then I had to have a very heart-to-heart conversation with my husband. And we discussed some things that we had never talked about before, which after the conversation led us to couples therapy. And at this point, we had been married for 16 years. And we met when we were 17. We started dating at 18. We got married at 23, had our first child at 26, the second one at 28. And we grew up together. But there were some things in our marriage that needed to be worked through, which led us to couples therapy. And we found the most amazing therapist for us. And by God, I'm so grateful because our therapy helped us so much individually as well as a couple. I also learned in June that I lost 13 pounds because, as I told you, to this day, I walk every single day. And because of the movement and everything, I lost weight. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but, that's always a beautiful thing. Another thing that happened is my husband got me a hotel. The day that I was leaving to go to the hotel, I had a Reiki session. And I remember having a conversation with my friend, and I said, I'm going to be a thought leader. And when I was at the hotel, one day I went to Barnes & Noble, and when I walked into the store and I was looking at the magazines, that's when I saw the Success magazine that said, The New Thought Leaders. And as I'm looking at the cover of the magazine, there's all these people on the cover and not one Black woman. And that's when it hit me. The reason that I don't see what I want or I don't see her is because it's me. And God made it so clear to me that the woman that I'm looking for is myself and that I am going to be a thought leader in this space. And I was so excited about that. And I'm like, wow, I never thought, but it hit me. And I told my husband, and my daughter about it. And so my daughter created this graphic of me, a digital graphic. And my husband then took the magazine with her graphic and put my face on the cover with everyone else. And I have it framed in my office, and you can go check my Instagram page and you'll see a cover of the magazine. But that picture, that photo, is to remind me of what I'm doing. And when I decided that that is what I'm going to be in this space, is a thought leader as it relates to community, friendship, personal growth, I decided that I wanted to separate myself from Be Free Project. So that way, you have Siobhan Sudbury, you have Be Free Project. And so I started with my Instagram page, and I created a new page for Be Free Project, and then I had Siobhan Sudbury. And so this way I can begin to branch off into other things. So then July comes, and my husband creates the Be Free Project headquarters for me. So now I have my own private space to work. And I've wanted my own space for years and years and years. And now I have it. And it is the most beautiful space ever. I'm in love to this day. I'm in love with it and very grateful for it. It's so vibrant. I have a video on Instagram, and you can go check it out. But the colors is pink, and it's my brand colors, plus my door is yellow, and there's butterflies in here. It's just amazing. You have to go see it. And so that was a highlight of July. Also, in July, I went to Florida for a few days to meet up with a friend, one of my new friends that I met online. We met up in Florida to just have like a girls' weekend. And I needed the days away because, again, I was still feeling like I was suffocating and I was drowning, and I just needed to get by the water. I needed to get away from everything for a few days. And so it was a great experience with her. We had a good time. Also in July, my husband and I celebrated 17 years of marriage. And so we spent the weekend together, and we had an amazing weekend. We went to Put-in-Bay for the day. We went hiking. We went to a new restaurant. We rented scooters downtown and scooted through the city. But we had a really, really great weekend to bring in 17 years of marriage. And we were in a really beautiful place, and it was all because of the therapy and the work that we had been doing. I also won a very significant grant through PayPal that blew my whole entire mind. And that was an amazing experience that I had. And the other thing that I realized too in July is that I was angry. Yep, I was angry. And I was angry because of all the things that were going on, and a specific relationship it didn't sit well in my spirit. And so I had to acknowledge that I was angry, and that wasn't easy to do because I've been taught not to be angry, basically to keep everything bottled up inside. But I couldn't hold it in anymore. And I cried, and I released it, and I journaled, and I talked to my friends about it, and I was able to release it. And when I released that anger, the very next day, I believe, or not soon after, is when I won this very significant grant from PayPal. And so that was July. And now we're into August. And this is when a shift begins to happen for me. And I realized at this point, I realized I had done so much work so far this year. And this takes the cake, y'all. And oh man, okay. So I had been saying I needed running shoes. I needed new running shoes. I decided that I would go to a store that caters in running shoes and walking shoes. And so I get sized for the new shoes. And the sales clerk says, you're going to need a 9.5. And I'm like, 9.5? I wear 8.5. And she's like, you wear 8.5? I'm like, yeah, I wear 8.5. She's like, well, you're going to need a 9.5. So she brings out a 9.5 because she said I was measuring at a size 9, but then when you buy running shoes, you always go a half size up. So that's why she said 9.5. And I'm like, wow. So she brings out the 9.5. It doesn't fit. And I need a 10. And I was like, what? And the 10 fit perfectly. Right? And so all these years, I have been wearing an 8.5. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because this is caged behavior and conditioning that after I read the book Untamed, everything started to like really open up for me, right? And you may be thinking, how the hell did you wear a size 8.5 and you are buying a size 10 running shoe? So that would mean that I wear a 9.5 in regular shoe sizes. But this is a thing, an 8.5 has always fit. It's just, I thought, I didn't know that you needed more room in your shoe. My toe has always been at the tip, but I haven't been uncomfortable. Or have I been so comfortable being uncomfortable that it became normal for me? I don't even know. But I was wearing the wrong shoe size, guys. And that is crazy to hear. And I had to get rid of all of my shoes and start over. I'm still starting over. So if anyone want to donate to my shoe habit, and I had to start over. And that's how stuck and tamed I was in condition. That for I don't know how long I've been buying 8.5 shoes. My toe has been at the tip. I thought that was normal, not knowing that I was supposed to have more room. So yeah, that is my embarrassing moment that I'm still like, I don't even know how. I don't know how, but it's what happened, And so I'm in the market to buy a whole new selection, I guess, of shoes. I also started in August taking improv classes because I wanted to do something creative, something outside of the box, be around different people. And so that was really fun. I did that for about 2 months and I had a really, really great time doing it. And then my kids started school in August. So this was my daughter's first year in high school. She attends a private school. And this was a big adjustment for us because I've been homeschooling my children for the last 5 years. So my daughter has been asking for about a year and a half to go to school. And my husband and I decided to let her go. And so she's at an amazing school and she's doing really, really well. And then my son is being homeschooled for another year. And so that was a big shift in our household because now we have, kids in different places doing different things. In August, I also decided to do a photo shoot because at this point I realized all the growth that I had and I needed to capture this moment. And so for September, I scheduled a photo shoot, but it was a lot of work getting up to the photo shoot because I knew I had grown so much and I had done so much work, but I wanted this photo shoot to capture everything. The woman that I am becoming, I wanted the inner work that I was doing. I wanted that to show. I wanted it to show how more connected I am with myself. I wanted to work with a new photographer. I worked with a new makeup artist. And then even with the dress, I wanted to wear something that was totally unlike me because I really wanted to tap into this inner being that I have. And it was a process. And so Tracee Ellis Ross was my muse. I love her style. I love her posing, all things Tracee Ellis Ross. So I created a Pinterest board and I studied how she was posing and I shared with my photographer. I said, hey, this is my muse. This is what I'm, looking to do. She was in full support of that. I ended up getting gifted a brand new Tracee Ellis dress. And it was just mind-blowing how that all came to be. And I did it. And if you haven't been to my website, head over to BeFreeProject.com to see the photos. And I'm so proud because I killed that photo shoot. And everything that I wanted for the photo shoot to be, it was that times 100. And I'm just so grateful for the photographers that I worked with, for my makeup artist, the dress, everything was absolutely perfect. And afterwards, I treated myself to brunch at Cleveland Vegan just to have a delicious meal to take it all in. And that was good. We also, my family and I, we took a family road trip to New York and New Jersey. One of my best friends, she lives there. And so we went to visit her for Labor Day weekend. And that was a really fun getaway. My husband and I, along with the kids, were able to go to New York, Manhattan, Times Square and just see the city and also be in Jersey. And that was a really, really great time. Then in September is when the fear started, because I started feeling like everything good was happening. Like my life started to feel so good. And I had never experienced this level of feeling good before. And it shocked my body because I'm like, oh, I have amazing friends. My marriage is amazing. My business is doing well. Like everything felt so good. Because it was unfamiliar, I wanted to sabotage. And I had to talk to my therapist about it. Like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And so I had to start to lean into feeling okay with feeling good. And I'm not sure if anyone has ever experienced that, but it is definitely a feeling that you have to adjust to. So now we're into October. And if you remember, I told you back in March, I made the declaration that the next time that I would see my mother, I would hug her and I would tell her I love her. Well, exactly 7 months from the time that I said that, that was the next time that I saw my mother. And when I learned that she was going to be at my grandmother's house, I said, oh, okay, you remember what you said. And thank God I told my daughter, because she was my accountability. And so as we were driving over to my grandmother's house, I said, remember what I told you the next time I saw my mother? And she said, yeah, you said you were going to hug her and tell her you love her. And I said, well, my mother is at Granny's house. And she said, you're going to do that today? And I said, yes. And she was like, you want to hold my hand? And I said, no, I'm okay. So we continued to drive over there, and I was listening to my episode from Rise to Reiki because I had to get back to that space of when I felt convicted and I knew what I had to do. And so when I get to my grandmother's house and my mother's there and I greet her, I took her flowers along with giving my grandmother flowers as well. And so I spent a couple of hours there, and it was time to go. My daughter's eyes following my every move because she wanted to see if I was going to live up to my word. And when it was time to go, I hugged my mother and I told her I loved her. And in that moment, I know I broke another generational curse. My mother didn't expect it. I'm sure it shocked her as well. And my daughter watched every moment. So when I say you can do hard things, she knows I mean that. She knows my journey. I've talked in length about everything with her. And so for her to see that moment happen, it changed the trajectory of our family. And after that experience, I couldn't feel for a few days. I could not feel. And I couldn't put a finger on what I was feeling, so I did not know. And I talked to my therapist about it, and she said, yeah, just pace yourself, take your time. I said, I feel numb. Because maybe I thought the sky was going to open up, confetti was going to fall out. But nope. The inner child in me, I shocked her. And so my body was just feeling all of the feelings. Last year, there was a young lady who sent me an email. And she had attended one of my events, and I had shared a story about my mother. And on a random day, she sends this email to me. Hi, Siobhan. I had something on my heart that I wanted to share with you. I hope I'm not out of line, that you don't take offense to this email. But I was just thinking of you and your website and what you stand for and all the hard work that you do. And I wanted to let you know that I think you are amazing. I know that you could be such a force. She goes on to say, I'm writing to you basically to let you know that you have to keep practicing forgiveness until you can truly walk up to your mom and tell her you really love her and that there is nothing but love between you both. This forgiveness must begin with you. I think that once you fully do this, you will soar, your business will soar, your whole life will soar. I think your work will get easier, your whole life will get easier. And I remember when she sent that email, this was February 23rd, 2019. I was like, I don't know who she's talking to. That email is not for me. I've already forgiven my mother. And then I would be reminded of that when I hugged my mother the first weekend of October, that young lady's email came full circle. And when I tell you my life is so easeful and so easy, and I am so lucky, she spoke life into me and she manifested that experience, but it would take a year or more of more healing work for me to walk into what she already saw. And it blew my mind because exactly 7 months after Rise 2 in March is when that email came full circle. And when I think about it, I'm like, wow. So another thing that happened in October, I was awarded a women's business certificate or women's business enterprise certificate, which is amazing because companies look for woman-owned businesses and things like that. And so I got awarded that, and I'm really excited to put that into work. And another thing that I released in October was the sense of guilt. And I started feeling guilty because of the friend group that I grew up with, because I decided that a particular relationship didn't work for me anymore, that I broke up the friendship, or I broke up the friendship group. And I will say things have changed since then a lot. And then I also was carrying guilt because I was making new friends that felt so good to my soul. I had to release the guilt that I was feeling so that I could really allow my new friendships and my old ones to blossom. And so I have released that guilt, and I feel very, very great about every single woman in my life that I call friend. Now we're into November, and we celebrate my granny's 91st birthday. And if you don't know, my grandmother raised me, and we have a very close bond. And she's at the age where she's losing her memory, and it's so hard. It's so hard to watch. But she knows me, and there's not a day that goes by that she doesn't tell me how much she loves me. And I said this year I'm going to give her a picture of myself from this new photo shoot, and I'm going to frame it because I want her to be able to see me every day. Even if I'm not at her house, I want her to see me. And not only did I decide to give her a picture, but my mother's birthday is on November 11th. And I printed out a picture for her as well, and I framed it. And I gifted them both of the photos on my granny's 91st birthday. And again, another shift happened. And I can't recall giving my mother anything for years because the relationship has just been so strained. And now there's restoration. And it's because of my work, you guys, the work that I talk about all the time. I don't just talk, I live this life that I'm talking about every single week on this podcast. And then the other thing that happened in November is that I won another grant, which I'm deeply grateful for. And to celebrate this year, I'm going on vacation to a beautiful country to hang out with friends, and I cannot wait. And I'll be sure to do a podcast all about it. But I want to continue to say that when I talk about doing the work, I mean it. I love my life. My life is so beautiful. I'm grateful for every single thing I just shared with you, because I'm fulfilled, I'm free, I've grown, I'm not the same person I used to be. Every day I'm growing to become better. And now I am accepting all of the good that's happening in my life and all that's coming. And so when I declare that 2020 will be my glow up season, listen, I did not know everything that I just expressed to you was going to be in store. And I now know that all of this had to happen in order for me to walk into the next chapter of glowing up. And this is what life is, y'all. It's just a journey, and there's work upon work upon work. And that's the beautiful thing about life, is that you keep growing, you keep healing, you keep moving forward step by step by step. And I am just so grateful for all of these moments, because they shaped me into the woman that I am today and the woman that I'm becoming. And I'm so grateful that I get to share this journey with you, that I get to teach the women in the Be Free Inner Circle about doing the work and building real friendships so that they can have their forever friends. I'm grateful that I am an example of what I talk about, that when I say meditate, it works. When I say journal, it works. When I say go to therapy, it works. And it's not an overnight thing. You got to show up every single day. And this journey is not meant to be done alone. Like, you need friends. Listen, if my friends had not been in my corner this year, I have no idea how I would have survived it all. But I know that God put the right people in my life so that I will be safe as I've grown through every single thing that happened. And even through all the challenges, there has been many beautiful moments, and I am in love with my husband. I like my husband. I'm grateful for what we have built in our family and where we're going. Our marriage is unconventional, and it works for us. And we both are able to be individuals, but then also grow in our partnership. I love the life that we're building for our children. I love my friends. I love my family. I love my business, y'all. I love Be Free Project with all of my heart. And it's because I get to do what I love every single day, which is to be a light and empower others to be free. And so I share this journey of my awakening to give you a little insight of what has been happening this year, and remind you that you need to join the Be Free Inner Circle so that I can guide you, I can coach you, I can mentor you, and then also you have the support. So as you go through your awakening, you're not doing it alone, but you're supported by other like-minded women. I would love, love, love to hear your feedback about this episode. So you can always shoot me an email and let me know. You can shoot me a DM on the gram at Siobhan Sudbury or at Be Free Project. Also, I would love for you to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, letting me know what you think about my podcast. Your journal prompt for this week is, when do you feel the most in tune with yourself? And your affirmation is, doing the work works. As always, I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to be in your ears every single week. If this episode inspired you in any kind of way and my work is motivating you to show up for yourself, you can always treat me to a cup of coffee. The link is in the show notes. And until next time, girl, be free.
Hi, my name is Sonia and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I love being a member of the Be Free Inner Circle because of the camaraderie among the members. It's an amazing place for women to share their dreams and goals and receive nothing but encouragement from other members. I also enjoy the book club and monthly chat where we share and hold each other accountable for our goals. If you're longing for sisterhood, this is the group for you.